The envelope sat on our kitchen counter like a coiled snake, white, clinical, with the logo of Charlotte Medical Center stamped in the corner. I stared at it while washing dishes, my hands moving automatically through the soapy water. Behind me, Carter paced back and forth across our small kitchen, his designer shoes clicking against the tile floor we'd installed together just last year. Back when I still believed in together. Maya, you need to understand what's at stake here. His voice had that edge to it, the one that meant he'd already made up his mind and was just waiting for me to fall in line. I dried my hands slowly, deliberately, giving myself time to think. Your mother needs a liver transplant. I understand that, Carter. What I don't understand is why you're looking at me like I'm the only option. Because you are the only option. He stopped pacing and gripped the back of a kitchen chair so hard his knuckles went white. We've tested everyone. My blood type doesn't match. My cousin backed out. The waiting list is 2 years long, and Mom has maybe 6 months. You're O negative, universal donor. You're literally the only person who can save her life. I picked up the envelope and pulled out the papers inside. Medical forms, consent documents, a surgery date already scheduled for next Thursday, just 9 days away. They'd planned this, discussed it, made decisions about my body without even asking me first. Maya, Carter's voice softened. He crossed the kitchen and took my hands, looking into my eyes with that earnest expression that used to make me melt. I know what I'm asking. I know it's major surgery, but this is my mother, and you're my wife. You're family now. This is what family does. Family. The word hit me right in the chest where it always did. I'd spent my entire childhood in the foster system after my parents died in a car accident when I was 7. Bounced from home to home, never staying anywhere long enough to matter. Never mattering enough to stay. When Carter Westbrook walked into the insurance office where I worked as an office manager 2 years ago, with his confident smile and his talk of building a future together, I thought I'd finally found my place, my people, my family. His mother, Victoria, was another story. Has your mother agreed to this? I asked quietly. Carter's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. She's sick, Maya. She's scared. You know how she is. Yes, I know exactly how she is. I pulled my hands away and walked to the window. Our apartment overlooked a parking lot, but beyond it, I could see the Charlotte skyline. All those buildings where people were living their lives, making their choices, probably not being pressured into donating organs to women who despise them. Victoria Westbrook had made her feelings about me crystal clear from day one. I wasn't wealthy enough, educated enough, connected enough. I was that foster girl Carter had inexplicably married. At our wedding, small courthouse ceremony because Victoria refused to waste money on theatrics, she'd pulled Carter aside. I heard her through the bathroom door. This is a mistake. She'll drag you down. These charity cases always do. Carter had defended me then, told her I was the woman he loved, and she needed to respect that. I'd married him that afternoon, believing he meant it. 3 months ago, you promised me we'd start trying for a baby, I said, still staring out the window. You said you wanted to build our own family. Now you want me to undergo major surgery that could affect my ability to have children. The doctors said the risks are minimal. The doctors said there are risks, Carter, to my fertility, to my long-term health. A liver donation isn't like giving blood. They'll be cutting into my abdomen, removing a piece of my liver. I'll be in the hospital for a week, out of work for 2 months, and your mother will still hate me afterward. She doesn't hate you. I turned to face him. She told me at Christmas that I should be grateful your family took me in, like I'm a stray dog you found. Carter ran his hand through his perfectly styled hair, messing it up in a way that would normally make him check his reflection. He was that rattled. Good. Maya, I'm begging you. He crossed the kitchen again, taking both my hands in his. I know Mom hasn't been warm to you. I know she's difficult, but this is life or death. If you do this, if you save her life, everything changes. You won't just be my wife on paper. You'll be the daughter who gave her a second chance. You'll be family, real family. Isn't that what you've always wanted? He knew exactly what buttons to push. The orphan who just wanted to belong. The woman desperate for a mother figure. The wife trying to prove she deserved her place. I looked down at our joined hands. His were soft, manicured. Mine had calluses from years of work, of scraping by, of never having enough. But we were wearing matching gold wedding bands, for better or worse, in sickness and health. I need to meet with the doctors first, I said finally. I need to understand exactly what the procedure involves, what the risks are. All of it. Carter's face broke into a relieved smile. Of course, absolutely. I'll set up the appointment for tomorrow. Dr. Marcus Chen is the best transplant surgeon in Charlotte. He'll explain everything. He pulled me into a hug and I let myself lean into his chest, breathing in his cologne. The expensive kind Victoria had given him for his birthday, pointedly giving me nothing. Thank you, he whispered into my hair. Thank you, Maya. You have no idea what this means to me. To us. You're going to be a hero. But I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like a fool making a mistake I couldn't quite identify yet. That night, Carter fell asleep quickly, his breathing deep and even beside me. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my hand resting on my right side, just below my ribs. Somewhere in there was my liver, doing whatever it was livers did. Filtering toxins, keeping me alive. Mine. Soon it might be partly hers. I must have finally dozed off around 3 a.m., because I woke with a start at 3:47 to the sound of Carter's phone vibrating on the nightstand. He grabbed it quickly, silencing it, then slid out of bed. Work emergency, he whispered when he saw my eyes open. Go back to sleep. He took the phone into the bathroom. I heard the door close, the lock click. Then his voice, low and urgent, but not quiet enough. I told you, she agreed. No, she doesn't suspect anything. Thursday, just like we planned. Yes, I'm sure she's desperate to be part of the family. She'd donate her heart if I asked. The money will clear by Friday, and then we're done with this whole mess. I said I'll handle it. My blood went ice cold. I lay perfectly still, eyes closed, breathing steady. Carter emerged from the bathroom 5 minutes later and climbed back into bed. He reached over and put his arm around me, pulling me close. The embrace that used to feel protective now felt like a trap. Love you, he murmured into my shoulder. I didn't respond. I was already pretending to sleep, but in my mind, I was wide awake, replaying every word I just heard. The money will clear by Friday, and then we're done with this whole mess. What money? What mess? And why did I suddenly feel like the donor they really needed wasn't a wife? It was a victim. I called in sick to work the next morning. Carter left early for a breakfast meeting, kissing my forehead on his way out, reminding me the doctor's appointment was at 2 p.m. The moment his car pulled out of our apartment complex, I was out of bed. I'd learned a long time ago in foster care how to find the things people hid, the secret stashes of candy, the money meant for new shoes that got spent on cigarettes, the locked diary that wasn't as locked as its owner thought. Carter was smart, but he was also arrogant. He didn't think I'd ever question him. His home office was off limits normally. Client confidentiality, he'd say whenever I offered to organize his papers. Now I understood why. His laptop was password protected, but his filing cabinet wasn't. I found the key exactly where I expected it, taped under his desk drawer. The files were meticulously organized. Property deals, client contracts, investment opportunities, everything labeled and color-coded. Very Carter. Then I found a red folder labeled simply VW, Victoria Westbrook. Inside were medical records, test results, a diagnosis of end-stage liver disease dated 8 months ago. Letters from 3 different hospitals all saying the same thing. She needed a transplant. She was on the waiting list. The prognosis was poor. So far, everything Carter had told me was true. Then I found the other papers. A contract with a medical facility I'd never heard of. Advanced Organ Solutions, LLC. Not a hospital, a company. The contract was full of legal jargon I didn't fully understand. But certain phrases jumped out. Procurement of compatible liver tissue, donor compensation upon successful harvest, non-disclosure agreement strictly enforced, and then the number that made my stomach drop. $300,000. $300,000 for my liver? No, that didn't make sense. Organ donation was free. Donors never received payment. That was illegal. Unless I pulled out my phone and Googled organ trafficking with shaking hands. The search results made me want to vomit. There was a black market for organs, a thriving international black market where desperate patients paid enormous sums, where unscrupulous doctors performed illegal transplants, where donors were sometimes willing but often weren't. I clicked on article after article, each one worse than the last. Donor dies after illegal liver procurement. International organ trafficking ring busted. Victims coerced into donating organs. My phone buzzed. Carter. Hey babe, just confirming you'll be ready at 1:30. Doctor doesn't like to be kept waiting. Love you. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. Yes, ready. I put the phone down and kept digging. Underneath the contract was a bank statement, not for Carter's business account that I knew about, a different one. Account holder, Westbrook Holdings, LLC. The transactions were all large deposits, $50,000 from a holding company in the Caymans, $75,000 from something called Sterling Properties, $100,000 from Development Partners Group, and one pending transaction dated for this Friday, $300,000 from Advanced Organ Solutions, LLC. They were selling my liver, not to save Victoria's life, to make money. I sat back in Carter's leather office chair, my mind racing. Did Victoria even need a transplant? Or was that a lie too? I grabbed the medical records again, reading more carefully this time. The diagnosis was real. I recognized the hospital letterhead from Charlotte Medical Center, but the treatment notes were odd. Patient refuses standard transplant waiting list. Patient requesting expedited alternative solutions. Patient has secured private funding for transplant procedure. She didn't want to wait in line like everyone else. She wanted to buy her way to the front, and Carter had found a way to make money from it. But there was something else here, something I was missing. If they were paying Victoria for my liver, why did Carter need to manipulate me? Why not just offer me part of the money? I looked at the contract again. This time I noticed the recipient information. Recipient, Sterling, David. Age, 68. Blood type, O positive. Condition, critical. Time remaining, 3 to 6 weeks. My liver wasn't going to Victoria at all. It was going to someone named David Sterling. I Googled the name. The first result made my heart stop. David Sterling, CEO of Sterling Properties. Real estate mogul worth an estimated $800 million, currently in critical condition, at an undisclosed medical facility while awaiting a liver transplant. And according to news articles from 2 months ago, he was suing a local real estate developer for fraud in a property deal. The developer's name, Carter Westbrook. Oh my God, this wasn't about Victoria's health. This wasn't about family. This was Carter trying to pay off a debt, curry favor, or maybe avoid prison by providing Sterling with the one thing his money couldn't legally buy, a liver. My liver. The door lock clicked. I heard Carter's voice in the hallway. Maya, I'm back early. Thought we could grab lunch before the appointment. I shoved everything back into the folder, jammed it into the filing cabinet, locked it, and was out of the office in seconds. In here, I called from the bedroom. Just getting dressed. He appeared in the doorway, all smiles. Behind the smile, I now saw the calculation, the manipulation. You okay? You look pale. Just nervous, and I said, which was true. Hey. He crossed to me and took my hands, again with the hands. Like if he held them tight enough, I couldn't escape. Dr. Chen is going to put all your fears to rest, I promise. This is safe. This is the right thing to do. And after it's over, everything's going to be different. Better. Different. Yes, I believe that, but not in the way he meant. Carter, I said carefully, what if I change my mind? His smile didn't falter, but something cold flickered behind his eyes. About what? The donation. What if I decided I wasn't comfortable with it? Now the smile faded. His hands tightened around mine, just a fraction. Maya, we've been through this. My mother is dying. You agreed to help. You can't just back out. But legally I could, right? Until the surgery actually happens? Technically, his voice had gone very quiet. But you won't, because you're not that kind of person. You're not cruel. You wouldn't let someone die when you could save them. Even someone who hates me? She doesn't hate you, he said automatically. But he was looking at me differently now, assessing, calculating. Why are you asking this? Did someone say something to you? No, I'm just scared. It's major surgery, Carter. What if something goes wrong? What if I die on that table? You won't. But I could. And if I did, what happens to Victoria? He dropped my hands and stepped back. Don't be morbid. I'm being realistic. If I die, does she die too? Or is there a backup plan? There's no backup plan. He was lying. I could see it in the way he wouldn't meet my eyes. You're it, Maya. You're the only one who can do this. Then I guess you'd better make sure I survive. Of course I will. He moved toward me again, but I stepped back. I need some air. I'm going for a walk before the appointment. Maya, I'll be back in time. I promise. I grabbed my purse and jacket and left before he could argue. The moment I was out of the building, I called the one person I trusted. Riley, it's Maya. I need your help, and I need you to not ask questions until I finish explaining. Riley Chen had been my foster sister in one of the better homes. We'd stayed in touch over the years. She was a paralegal now, smart and resourceful. I'm listening, she said. I told her everything. The overheard phone call, the files, the contract, the lawsuit, the money. When I finished, there was a long silence. Maya, Riley finally said, you cannot have this surgery. I know. No, I mean you cannot. If what you're telling me is true, this isn't just unethical, it's illegal. Organ trafficking is a federal crime. If you go through with this, you could be considered complicit. But if I don't, Carter will know I know, and I don't know what he'll do. Then we go to the police. With what evidence? I broke into his files. Everything I know is from snooping. Then Riley, listen, I have a different idea, but I need your help, and I need a lawyer. What kind of lawyer? The kind who specializes in fraud and knows how to take down people like Carter. I might know someone, but Maya, what are you planning? I looked up at the Charlotte Medical Center building looming in front of me. Somewhere in there, Dr. Marcus Chen was preparing to cut into me. Not if I could help it. I'm planning to give them exactly what they want, I said, but not the way they expect. Dr. Marcus Chen's office was nothing like I expected. I'd pictured cold metal and harsh lights, but instead, it was warm wood and soft lighting with framed photos of smiling patients on the walls. Survivors, people who'd been given a second chance. I wondered if any of them had been used the way I was about to be used. Mrs. Westbrook. Dr. Chen stood and extended his hand. He was in his 50s, gray at the temples, with kind eyes. Those eyes bothered me the most. They looked genuine. Thank you for coming, and please call me Marcus. We're going to be spending a lot of time together. Carter squeezed my hand. Thanks for seeing us on short notice, Doc. Of course. Living donation is always urgent. He gestured to 2 chairs across from his desk. Please sit. The next 20 minutes were a medical lecture. Dr. Chen explained the procedure in detail, how they would remove approximately 60% of my liver, how it would regenerate over time, how Victoria would receive the portion she needed. The liver is remarkable, he said, pulling up a diagram on his computer screen. It's the only organ that can fully regenerate. Within 3 months, your liver will be back to nearly full size. Victoria's transplanted portion will grow to meet her needs. It's really quite miraculous. What are the risks? I asked. To you, there's always risk with any major surgery. Bleeding, infection, blood clots. Long term, there's a small chance of liver complications, though that's rare. The bigger concern is the immediate post-op period. You'll be in significant pain. The recovery is extensive. And her fertility, Carter interjected. We're planning to start a family soon. Dr. Chen smiled. The surgery shouldn't affect fertility. You'd need to wait about 6 months before trying to conceive, to allow your body to fully heal. But there's no reason you couldn't have a healthy pregnancy afterward. Lies, I'd read the research. The risks were higher than he was saying. Complications were more common. But he was selling this, just like Carter was. When would the surgery happen, I asked. Thursday morning. We already have you scheduled. That's fast. Victoria's condition is deteriorating rapidly. We can't afford to wait. I looked at Carter. He was nodding along, playing the worried son perfectly. Can I think about it? I asked. The room went very still. Maya, Carter started. Mrs. Westbrook, Dr. Chen interrupted gently. I understand this is frightening, but I need you to understand the timeline. Victoria has days, maybe a week or two at most. Every day we delay is a day closer to losing her. I'm not saying no. I'm saying I need 24 hours to process this. We don't have 24 hours, Carter said sharply. One day won't make a difference, I insisted. Dr. Chen and Carter exchanged a look. Some silent communication passed between them. Fine, Carter said through gritted teeth. 24 hours. But I could see in his eyes that I'd made a mistake. I'd shown resistance. Now he'd be watching me even more carefully. That night, Carter was attentive in a way he hadn't been in months. He made dinner, poured wine, put on music, trying to soften me up, trying to make me feel guilty for hesitating. I'm sorry I snapped at you at the doctor's office, he said over pasta. This whole situation has me on edge. I understand. Do you? Because I feel like you're pulling away from me. I'm about to have major surgery to save your mother's life. I'm allowed to be scared. He reached across the table and took my hand. I know, and I love you for being willing to do this. You're amazing, Maya. I don't tell you that enough. I wanted to throw the wine in his face. Instead, I smiled. I love you too. After dinner, he suggested we watch a movie, cuddled on the couch, played the devoted husband, all while I knew he'd sold me out for $300,000. At midnight, I excused myself to bed. Carter stayed up to finish some work emails. I lay in the dark, listening to him in the other room. After an hour, I heard his voice again. Another phone call. I don't know what's wrong with her. She's getting cold feet. No, I'll handle it. Thursday's still on. I'll make sure of it. Yes, I understand what's at stake. I said I'll handle it. A pause. What do you mean, prepare a contingency? You can't be serious. That's too far, even for... Fine, if it comes to that, but it won't. She'll go through with it. My blood turned to ice. What contingency? At 2 a.m., when I was certain Carter was asleep, I crept out of bed and into the living room. His phone was charging on the counter. I knew his passcode. He'd never bothered to change it from our anniversary. I scrolled through his recent calls. Most were to office or names I recognized, but one number appeared repeatedly, including 3 times today. No name attached. I copied it and texted it to Riley. Her response came back 5 minutes later. That's a lawyer, Douglas Marino. Specializes in sensitive transactions. Shady reputation. Why? Find out if he's connected to Advanced Organ Solutions. On it. Maya, be careful. I deleted the text thread and put Carter's phone back exactly where I found it. The next morning, Wednesday, I told Carter I'd made my decision. I'll do it, I said over coffee. The surgery, I'll save your mother. His relief was palpable. Thank you. God, Maya, thank you. You won't regret this. Oh, but he would, because I'd spent the night making my own calls. To Riley, to her lawyer friend, and to a reporter at the Charlotte Observer who specialized in medical fraud. The surgery was scheduled for Thursday at 6 a.m. I was instructed to arrive at the hospital at 4 a.m. for prep. Carter drove me, chattering nervously the whole way. Mom's already there. They're prepping her, too. After this, everything changes, Maya. You'll see. She's going to love you. We'll be a real family. I nodded along, letting him believe it. The pre-op area was a maze of curtained spaces. A nurse named Jennifer got me into a gown, took my vitals, inserted an IV. Your husband seems very devoted, she commented. That's sweet. Isn't it? I said. At 5:30, Dr. Chen came by. All set? Any last questions? Just one, I said. How long has David Sterling been your patient? The room went deathly silent. Dr. Chen's face remained professionally neutral, but I saw his jaw tighten. I'm not sure what you're referring to. David Sterling, the man who's actually receiving my liver today, not Victoria. Carter shot to his feet. Maya, what are you? Sit down, Carter. I kept my eyes on Dr. Chen. I know about the contract. I know about advanced organ solutions. I know this isn't a normal donation. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to be honest with me for once, or I'm walking out of here right now, and you can explain to David Sterling why he's dying because of your greed. Dr. Chen and Carter stared at each other, some kind of calculation happening behind their eyes. Finally, Dr. Chen spoke. How long have you known? Long enough. So let's skip the lies. Victoria isn't dying, is she? Or if she is, she's not getting my liver. Victoria is ill, Dr. Chen said carefully, but her condition is manageable with medication. Mr. Sterling's is not. He has days left, maybe hours. You're a perfect match. You're his only chance. And the $300,000, a finder's fee for facilitating the connection. The surgery itself is technically legal. You're consenting. Mr. Sterling needs it. Everything is documented. The payment is unorthodox but not criminal. Except that I was lied to, manipulated, coerced. You're here, aren't you? Carter snapped. You agreed. Under false pretenses. Then leave, he shouted. Walk out. But Victoria will die without treatment, and you'll be the one who let her. How will you live with that? I looked at my husband, the man I'd loved, the man who had made me feel like family, and I saw nothing there but calculation. Jennifer, I called to the nurse, I'm ready for surgery. Carter's face flooded with relief. But first, I continued, I need you to bring in the people waiting in the consultation room. Tell them Maya Rivers is ready to make her statement. What people? Carter demanded. The curtain opened. 2 police officers stepped in, followed by a woman in a business suit carrying a briefcase. Detective Morrison, Charlotte PD, the woman said, flashing her badge. Mr. Westbrook, Dr. Chen, you're both under investigation for conspiracy to commit organ trafficking. We've been recording this conversation. She nodded to Jennifer, the nurse, who pulled a small recording device from her pocket. You're a cop? Carter's face had gone white. Undercover. We've been investigating advanced organ solutions for 6 months. Thanks to your wife's information, we now have everything we need. Carter turned to me, rage and disbelief warring on his face. You set me up. You set yourself up, I said calmly. I just decided not to be your victim. You can't do this. Carter lunged toward me, but the officers grabbed him. That's my wife. She's having surgery. You're killing David Sterling. Actually, a new voice said from the doorway, I'm not dead yet. An older man in a wheelchair was rolled in by an assistant. Thin, frail, but with sharp, intelligent eyes. David Sterling. Mr. Sterling has agreed to cooperate with the investigation, Detective Morrison said, in exchange for immunity. Turns out he didn't know his transplant was being facilitated through illegal channels either. His lawyers thought they were working through legitimate networks. Sterling looked at me with something like respect. Young lady, I owe you an apology. I was so desperate to live that I didn't ask enough questions. Your husband told me you were a willing donor, doing this out of love. I had no idea you'd been deceived. Neither did I said quietly, until 4 days ago. The surgery, Dr. Chen said desperately. We can still do this. Maya, you signed the consent forms. Everything's legal. The consent forms are void, Detective Morrison interrupted. They were obtained through fraud. Dr. Chen, you're under arrest. As they led him away in handcuffs, Carter was shouting, struggling. You'll regret this, Maya. You hear me? You'll regret this. But I felt nothing but relief. Sterling's assistant wheeled him closer to my gurney. Mrs. Westbrook, or should I say Rivers, I know I have no right to ask this, but I'm dying. I have perhaps days. Is there any way? He trailed off, seeing my expression. Mr. Sterling, I said carefully, my liver was nearly stolen from me. I'm not giving it to anyone today, but if you're willing to go through proper channels, wait your turn on the legitimate transplant list, work with ethical doctors, I'd be willing to consider donating in the future, when I'm ready, on my terms. That's more than I deserve, he said quietly. Yes, I agreed. It is. They wheeled him away. The detective turned to me. We'll need a formal statement, but not today. Go home. Rest. You've been through enough. What happens to Carter and Dr. Chen? They'll be charged. Conspiracy to commit organ trafficking carries significant prison time. Your testimony will be crucial." I nodded. Riley appeared in the doorway, having been waiting outside. "Come on," she said, helping me out of the hospital gown and back into my clothes. "Let's get you out of here." As we left the hospital, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is David Sterling's attorney. Mr. Sterling would like to meet with you when you're ready. No pressure, no strings. He wants to thank you properly for your integrity, and he has some information about your parents' accident that you might want to hear." I stared at that last sentence. Information about my parents? "You okay?" Riley asked. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but I'm alive, I'm free, and I just took down the man who tried to use me." "That's a pretty good start." It was, but I had a feeling the story wasn't over yet. 3 weeks later, I sat in a corner office on the 32nd floor of Sterling Tower, looking out over Charlotte's skyline. The city sparkled in the afternoon sun, all glass and steel and promise. Behind me, David Sterling sat in a leather chair, his assistant Patricia Moore beside him. He looked better than he had in the hospital. Still frail, still clearly ill, but with a vitality in his eyes that had been missing before. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I know you didn't have to." "You said you had information about my parents," I replied. No point dancing around it. "I do, but first I want to apologize again for my role in what happened to you. You didn't know. I should have. I built my career on asking questions, on not taking things at face value. I got desperate, and desperation makes you stupid." He pulled a folder from the side table and slid it across the desk to me. "Your parents, Catherine and Michael Rivers. They died when you were 7. "I know." My voice came out rougher than I intended. "Car accident on I-77. Truck hit them. I was in the back seat. I survived." "It wasn't an accident." The room tilted. "What?" The truck driver was drunk. He'd been drinking at a bar for 3 hours before getting behind the wheel. The bar was owned by a subsidiary of a real estate company. Your father had been investigating that company for fraud. He was an accountant, worked for the state auditor's office. He'd found evidence of money laundering, tax evasion, bribing public officials. He was about to go public with it. I couldn't breathe. "You're saying my parents were murdered?" "I'm saying the evidence suggests it. The case was closed as an accident. The truck driver went to prison for vehicular manslaughter, but the company that owned the bar was never investigated. They paid off the right people, buried the evidence, and your father's investigation disappeared." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because the company that owned that bar was Westbrook Properties, run by Carter's father, Edmund Westbrook, before he died and passed the business to Carter. The walls were closing in. Carter's father killed my parents? I can't prove that. Edmund Westbrook died 5 years ago, but the connection is there. And when I started digging after your case, I found something else. Carter knew who you were when he met you." "That's impossible. I was 7 when they died. He would have been a teenager." Patricia spoke up for the first time. "We found his internet search history from 2 years ago. He searched your name, your parents' names, the accident, weeks before he ever walked into that insurance office where you worked." Sterling leaned forward. "He targeted you, Maya. I don't know why. Maybe guilt. Maybe to keep tabs on you in case you ever started asking questions about the accident. Maybe because he knew you were alone in the world and easy to manipulate." I thought about our meeting, how coincidental it had seemed, how he'd pursued me so persistently, how he'd made me feel seen for the first time in my life. It had all been a lie, every single moment. "There's more," Sterling said gently. "The lawsuit between Carter and me, it wasn't just about a bad real estate deal. Carter was trying to develop a property. To develop it, he needed my adjacent land. I wouldn't sell. So he forged documents, bribed inspectors, tried to force me out. When that didn't work, he started looking for leverage. The liver. The liver. He knew I was dying. He knew I was desperate. He approached me through back channels, said he had a willing donor, someone who wanted to help. No strings attached. Made it seem like a miracle," I finished, my voice hollow. "And you thought you'd found a way to survive without breaking any laws." "I was a fool," Sterling said, "but Carter was counting on that. He needed the money. His legal bills were destroying him. The lawsuit, the investigations into his father's old business practices, all of it. He was drowning. And then he remembered you. I stood and walked to the window, pressing my palm against the cool glass. Below, people moved through their lives, unaware that everything they believed could be built on lies. Why didn't he just divorce me? Why go through all this? Because you're worth more to him in pieces than as a wife, Patricia said quietly. The life insurance policy he took out on you 6 months ago. Did you know about that? My blood went cold. What? $2 million. You're the insured. He's the beneficiary. If something went wrong during the surgery, if you died on that table, he would have gotten the insurance payout, the money from Sterling, and been free of you. A tragic accident. No one would have questioned it. The contingency plan. The phone call I'd overheard. Carter hadn't just been willing to sell my liver. He'd been hoping I'd die in the process. I turned back to Sterling. Why are you helping me? You don't know me. Because you saved my life, he said simply. Not by giving me your liver, by having the courage to expose the truth. The investigation into Advanced Organ Solutions led authorities to a legitimate transplant coordinator. I was put on the proper waiting list. And 3 days ago, I received a liver from a donor who died in a motorcycle accident. A real donor, a legal transplant. I stared at him. You had the surgery? He lifted his shirt slightly, showing a fresh surgical scar. I did. I'm alive because you refused to be a victim. The least I can do is give you the truth about your past. And what am I supposed to do with this truth? Whatever you want. The evidence is yours. You can go to the police, pursue charges, or let it go. But you deserve to know who you really are. You're not just some orphan who got lucky. You're the daughter of heroes who died fighting corruption. That's your legacy, Maya, not Carter's lies. I looked at the folder in my hands. Inside was my entire history, the truth about my parents, the reason I'd spent my childhood alone. There's one more thing, Sterling said. I'm offering you a job. A job? I need someone I can trust. Someone with integrity. Someone who understands what it means to fight for what's right, even when it costs you everything. I want you to run my foundation. We fund anti-corruption initiatives, support foster children, advocate for organ donation reform. It pays $150,000 a year to start, and you'd be making a real difference. I couldn't speak. Think about it, Sterling said. No pressure, but I meant what I said. You saved my life. Let me help you start yours. As I left Sterling Tower that afternoon, I had 3 things I hadn't had that morning. The truth about my parents, a job offer that could change my future, and the beginning of something I'd never expected, a sense of who I really was. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Carter sat at the defense table in a gray suit, his lawyer beside him, maintaining his innocence. But the evidence was overwhelming. The recorded conversations, the contracts, the testimony from Dr. Chen, who'd taken a plea deal, the financial records showing Carter's debts, his desperation, his planning. I took the stand on day 12. Carter's lawyer tried to paint me as vindictive, a scorned wife seeking revenge, a woman who'd agreed to donate her liver and then changed her mind, wanting to punish her husband for a failing marriage. Isn't it true, Mrs. Westbrook, that you were having doubts about your marriage before this incident? Yes, I answered calmly. And isn't it true that you went through your husband's private files without his permission? Yes. So you violated his privacy, his trust, all because you were looking for reasons to leave him? I looked at the jury, 12 faces watching me, trying to decide if I was a victim or a villain. I violated his privacy because I overheard him on the phone talking about money clearing after my surgery. I wanted to understand what he meant. What I found was evidence that my husband was planning to sell part of my body without my knowledge, pocket $300,000, and possibly let me die in the process so he could collect on a life insurance policy I didn't know existed. So yes, I went through his files, and I'd do it again. The defense attorney tried to recover. But you have no proof that Mr. Westbrook intended for you to die? The proof is in his phone records, the prosecutor interjected. Calls to his lawyer discussing contingency plans if the donor didn't survive. Texts about the insurance policy. We have it all. Carter's face remained impassive, but I saw his hands clench under the table. Victoria Westbrook testified for the defense. She sat in the witness box, perfectly coiffed, radiating disapproval. My son would never harm anyone, she insisted. He was trying to save my life. If anyone is to blame, it's that woman. She pointed at me. She manipulated him, made him think she loved him, and then destroyed him when she had the chance. Mrs. Westbrook, the prosecutor said gently, were you aware that the liver your son arranged for you to receive was actually going to David Sterling? Victoria's face went blank. What? Your son wasn't arranging your transplant. He was selling his wife's liver to someone else and telling you it was for you. For the first time, I saw genuine shock on Victoria's face. That's not... Carter wouldn't. But as the evidence mounted, even she couldn't deny it. Her son had used her illness as a cover for his scheme. He'd let her believe she was dying when her condition was manageable with medication. He'd manipulated everyone. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, guilty on all counts. Conspiracy to commit organ trafficking. Fraud, attempted murder couldn't be proven definitively, but the insurance policy and contingency discussions added years to his sentence. Carter Westbrook was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. Dr. Marcus Chen received 8 years. Advanced Organ Solutions was shut down, and 3 other doctors were arrested in the expanded investigation. I sat in the courtroom as the sentence was read. Riley beside me, David Sterling in the row behind us. Carter turned to look at me as the marshals approached to take him into custody. Our eyes met across the courtroom. I thought he might mouth something, an apology, a curse, some final manipulation. But he just looked at me like I was a stranger, like I'd never been real to him at all. Maybe I hadn't been. 2 years later, I stood in front of the Rivers Foundation headquarters, watching the sign go up. The foundation David Sterling had promised me had become something more, something mine. Funded by Sterling's donation and a settlement from the lawsuit against Carter's estate, the Rivers Foundation supported 3 causes: foster children aging out of the system, families of whistleblowers who died fighting corruption, and organ donation reform. My parents' legacy. My legacy, finally connected. It looks good, Riley said beside me. She'd left her paralegal job to become the foundation's legal director. Your parents would be proud. I hope so. My phone buzzed, a text from David Sterling. Saw the sign from my office window. Beautiful. How are you feeling? I smiled and texted back. Strong. It was true. The surgery I'd nearly been forced into never happened, but I'd undergone a different kind of operation over the past 2 years, cutting out the diseased parts of my life, removing the lies, letting the healthy parts grow back stronger. I'd also gotten closure on my parents' case. With Sterling's evidence and resources, I'd worked with investigators to reopen the accident inquiry. We couldn't prove Edmund Westbrook had ordered their deaths. He was dead, and the trail was 20 years cold. But we proved the bar that served the drunk driver was negligent, that the company that owned it had covered up multiple violations, and that my father had been investigating them when he died. The state of North Carolina issued a posthumous commendation to my parents for their integrity and service. It sat on my desk in a simple frame. It didn't bring them back, but it gave them justice. You ready to go in? Riley asked. The new foster kids are waiting to meet you. The Rivers Foundation provided support to kids aging out of foster care, scholarships, job training, mentorship, everything I'd never had. Inside, 12 teenagers sat in a circle, nervous and defiant in equal measure. I recognized that look. I'd worn it myself. Hi, I said, sitting down with them. My name is Maya Rivers. I spent 10 years in foster care. I know what it's like to feel like you don't belong anywhere, to feel like you have to prove you deserve to exist. But you're here because you do belong. You do matter, and this foundation exists to prove it. A girl in the back, maybe 16, raised her hand tentatively. Did you really almost donate your liver to someone? Almost, I said. But I didn't. Why not? Because I realized that I couldn't save someone else until I saved myself, and because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say no, even when people try to make you feel guilty for it. What happened to the guy who tried to make you do it? A boy asked. He went to prison, I said simply, and I built this. I gestured around the room, at the building that would house their futures, at the possibilities that hadn't existed for me at their age. You all deserve a chance, I said, not because someone's doing you a favor, not because you should be grateful, but because you're human beings with inherent worth. That's what this place is for, to remind you of that every single day. After the meeting, Riley and I walked back to my office. On my desk was a framed photo of my parents, smiling at the camera. Beside it was a new photo, me and David Sterling at the foundation's groundbreaking, both of us alive and healthy. You know what the best part is? Riley said. What? Carter thought he was getting your liver. Instead, you got your life back. His plan literally backfired into giving you everything he tried to take away. I laughed. She was right. The man who'd tried to reduce me to spare parts had accidentally shown me how strong I really was. My phone rang. Unknown number. Maya Rivers. Ms. Rivers, this is Detective Morrison. I wanted to let you know that we've identified 3 more victims in the Advanced Organ Solutions case. Thanks to your testimony, we've been able to shut down 2 more illegal transplant networks. You've saved lives. Thank you for letting me know. No, thank you. You didn't have to help with the investigation. You could have walked away after Carter was arrested, but you stayed and helped us build the case. That takes courage. After we hung up, I looked out my office window at the city below. Somewhere in Charlotte, Carter was in a cell, living with the consequences of his choices. Somewhere, David Sterling was in his office, running his company with a second chance at life. One earned the right way. Somewhere, foster kids were aging out of the system, hoping for someone to believe in them. And here I was. No longer the orphan desperate to belong. No longer the wife trying to prove her worth. No longer the victim. Just Maya Rivers, building a family of her own. One choice at a time. My liver had stayed exactly where it belonged. Inside me, keeping me alive. And I'd use that life to become something Carter never expected. Someone who mattered, on my own terms.